I have the research with me, as you can see. I'm going to quickly summarize the research. And then at the end of this video, I'm going to give you my perspective into what I think about the claim and where it merits some good or some critics. What is this paper about? This paper is written by the author that mentioned the claim that 9% of software engineers are ghost developer. And I think he got this data when he was doing this specific research. Let's talk about it. This research paper talk about an AI tool that's going to be used to facilitate code review. In software engineering, usually when someone writes their code, you need to set it to code review, and you'll never guess. They build an AI agent that can help facilitate this. Usually code review is important because they help us with catching bugs, improving the code quality, and sharing knowledge among other developers so that we can easily talk about the code and see the weakness and the bad thing about the code. But some of the negative thing about code review is it takes time. And sometimes someone reviewing a code only look at the surface level. For example, is the code following the style? They're trying to look for obvious error. So this research was done by the author, who the source code of many organizations, and then they create an AI agent to do code review. And also, they also had a couple of humans to also make their code review of that piece of code. And then they compare both the human evaluation versus the AI agent. Pretty much the AI agent use a random forest algorithm that usually the way this algorithm work, you look at certain feature of something, and then based on the feature that has more weight, put it on the top. So it's like a tree structure. And then based on that, eventually you will get at the leaf of the tree to figure out the answer. So based on the paper, the AI model would facilitate with the automation of code review. It would look at feature of the code, and based on that, it would assign it some score. And then similar thing happened to human who were looking at code. They would look at the code and then they would assign it some score. Once the review was done by human, they compared with the AI model output, and then they can see the AI model output on certain aspect can really figure out way to improve the code. Couple of things to build in mind when I was reading the paper. These currently only work on object-oriented programming languages. So the AI model can use feature of object-oriented programming to assign if the code was good or the code was not bad. So now, when they were doing this research, the author probably had access to the Git repository of many organizations. And then with that data, he could figure out that some developers don't commit code as often as other developers, and that some developers probably make one commit a month. And based on that, he came to his conclusion that, hey, we have that amount of developers who are labeled as ghost developers, which, as I said, I don't think it's an accurate representation, but we're going to talk more about this in the end. There are a couple of issues with the conclusion that only about 9.5% of developers are ghost developers. Let's start by understanding that sometimes it takes a lot of time to read external documents before you can come to a conclusion and write specific code. And sometimes the code you have to write might be one small change. However, it doesn't take into account how long it takes to actually come to figure out where exactly you need to make this small change. There is this story that I was told many times. A guy has a boat and the boat was having issues, and then no one could fix it. Yet everyone who comes didn't get a result. And then someone come with a little hammer and then look somewhere and then boop, boop, boop. And then boom, everything start working. But then from the person perspective that called the person to come fix the boat, he felt like you charged too much money. All you had to do was just hit somewhere on the boat with your hammer. But the person says, hey, it took me about 10 years or 20 years to figure out where exactly I should hit the hammer on the boat. So it's something similar, right? Sometime you probably have a very small code change to do. However, it takes a lot of experience and a lot of time, a lot of understanding to figure out where exactly you need to make that code change without causing a lot of issue. And then this idea of measuring productivity with the amount of source code being produced is not accurate because, again, there are some layer of understanding the code and understanding the domain that come with a lot of reading that may not be reflecting in the source code as someone who is probably maintaining the code. Maybe in a month, they only have to make one code change because during this other time, they had to attend meeting, right? They had to plan. They had to do a lot of other activities that are not related to writing source code. But at the same time, the idea of using artificial intelligence to make code review being faster and more efficient has its merit. It's a very great idea. Even when I was reading the research paper, there are some limitations. For example, the AI system could not really understand code structure very well. And there are some other subjective area on the research where the AI is struggling to beat human. However, the time it takes for the AI to quickly review your code and give you some feedback can make it easier for other people reviewing code to spend less time reviewing code. It's not a perfect system. Productivity has been increasing, yet our wage hasn't been increasing the same way as productivity has been increasing. And I find it hard to understand why Stanford putting so much money at trying to make people be more productive, when in reality, productivity has not matched, the level of income that most people are expecting to get. The graph clearly showed that productivity kept on going up, but income doesn't go up. And last but not least, also understanding the graph doesn't take into account the new wave of productivity that's gonna come with the advancement of artificial intelligence. Like, for example, we have this specific paper that deeply go into one of the most time-consuming thing that a lot of developer has to do, which is part of their day-to-day. And now that we have an AI system that can go and alleviate the time-consuming things that is code review. So in your opinion, what do you think? Do you feel that the claim that 9.5% of developer or goods developer makes sense? Or do you agree with it? Or do you feel was just a clickbait so that people can click and then people can follow it, and then eventually people would land on his research paper, which people would eventually read? Because in my opinion, I think that's what that is. It was just a clickbait so that people grab interest into it, and then when you follow it, you eventually land here. If you haven't read the paper yet, go ahead and read it. That's pretty much it. I hope this video, you find it entertaining, and I will see you next time.